Right, we were having a fascinating conversation over lunch, weren't we? And I really want to bring that to life for everybody here. But obviously, first of all, please, can you briefly introduce yourselves and the organisation you work for?
So I'm Fran Longstaff. I'm Chief Innovation Officer at More Than Equal. We're a not-for-profit organisation on a mission to find the first female Formula One champion.
Exactly. That goes for a shout out. Yeah, so my name is Liselott. I am the Director of Business Consultancy inside of Venga. We're an IT consultancy company, about 6,000 people globally, worldwide. We have headquarters in Prague, but we have a growing presence here in the UK. So that's what we do.
Excellent. Sorry, so why don't we already have a female champion? What's the backdrop to it? What's the issue? What's the challenge? And how have you gone about addressing that?
Yeah, so the Formula One is a mixed gender sport. So even 50% of Formula One fans a few years ago didn't know that it was possible for a woman to race in Formula One because there simply hadn't been one for so long. So the last woman who's raced in a Formula One competitive race was 50 years ago. And essentially women have then been written out the narrative. The less you're seen in an area, the less it's believed that you can be there. So when More Than Equal was first founded, with a very simple mission to change that and find the first champion, we did a piece of research to basically understand what those barriers are. And then from that piece of research, we decided that the best way to find and develop that champion was to run a female specific driver development programme, taking young female drivers from karting all the way through Formula 4, 3, 2, 1, up to Formula 1. And the product that we're going to be talking about now, Future Lab, basically came to life because we started our mission and our first question was, how are we going to find all these girls? Where are the girls? So a big challenge in early stage motorsport is there's no central repository for race results. So there are hundreds and hundreds of karting Formula 4 championships all over the world. Race results are typically stored as PDFs, which is objectively the worst way to store data. And they're often structurally different. They're scored differently. So we decided to do a really easy job of deciding to create that data lake. So that's how we started to work with Venga to create the first central repository of race results. But not just that, we decided actually the ambition was to become the #1 talent intelligence platform. So we developed it with that aim in mind to find female talent, but then we thought actually this is a really useful system for anyone. So we use that system now to identify, monitor, compare, and eventually predict driver performance.
So did you go to market? Did you go to market with a traditional RFP, go to tender, and how did you end up engaging with Venga and with Venga to do exactly what?
Yeah.
Let's take it back to the beginning. So 2 years ago, quite on the date actually, our two CEOs met, the CEO of More Than Equal and the CEO of Venga. And there was an event and the CEO of Venga went like, okay, so you have this challenge of finding the first female Formula One champion. And we have a bunch of data and AI guys, really smart people in that area. So why don't we try to help you in a way? So then we did a workshop in Malmö, Sweden, where I'm based, together with you and the whole More Than Equal crew 2 years ago. And that was a really discovery type of workshop. We didn't know at all what to do at that point in time. So we had all these ideas up on the whiteboard but quite soon we zoomed in on this challenge that there is no central data repository where you can actively compare and view driver results from an objective type of way. It's really strange that in motorsports is so data driven, especially in the top. But the further down you go in motorsports, the less you have data about anything. So we were quite surprised to realize that, having a platform with data about young talent in a sport, like in any sport, that exists in very many other sports, but not in motorsports. So that's when we decided, let's go for this one because it would really, truly help you. And then later on, we can talk about that, but later on we decided that this is something that we can commercialize.
So can you tell us about the journey that you've been on and the challenges you face, how you've overcome them, and where you're at right now?
Yeah, sure. It's not been easy. I think I think that's probably fair to say. The start of the journey really was as we were deciding to build this product. One of the first things that we had to decide as an organisation is, are we going to be a data-led organisation? Because actually it was more than about building just this product that sits isolated. We wanted to be data-driven and data-led in our way of working. So we went through that cultural piece, like, are we actually going to commit to this? Because we understood the scale of the technical challenge. We've then, for the first year and a half, prioritised the development of the data lake. So the product as it is at the moment has it's an MVP user interface. Still looks good, but it's an MVP. We've prioritised the acquisition of the data, and that's good quality official race results data. So that has been the challenge. We've used it as ourselves as an organisation. So some of the girls sitting in our programme right now were talent identified from that system, and we monitor their performance using that system. But then in March this year, we decided we were going to launch the product and commercialise it, because the problem that we were facing, we realised, was exactly the same problem that even an F1 team would be facing. So we commercialised it early this year. And yeah, I think that's where we're up to.
Yes, we are. And I'm so since the system now, with the help of AI, collects data about all the racing happening in karting and F4, which is the lower end part of motorsports, for those who are not interested in motorsports. So I think also that we soon realize that we do have now, okay, so now we know who the girls are, but we actually do also know who the boys are, because that data is coming to us as you know, just by doing what we do. So that's when we decided to go commercial with the product. So we launched the Black Book Motorsports event, which is held in London yearly. So we did that in March earlier this year. And now, well, we have 2 F1 teams as customers. We do also have like a sports management team and another series, which we have as customers on the platform. So we're slowly but surely like getting our footprint out there. But what is difficult, because you asked about challenges. So challenges in the commercial space is that I think we're solving something where people might not, I mean, scouting in motorsports is still happening in very traditional ways. So it's a lot about who knows who and who's talking to who, etc. And we really want to bring, with Future Lab, we want to bring data to that discussion. And we want to give, I mean, a holistic, nice goal for this platform is to help whoever you are, wherever you're coming from, gender, age, whatever it is, your data is in the platform. And if you're better than the others, you will be noticed. So bringing a bit of a cultural change as well into how you identify talent in motorsports. And that is, of course, not something that you do overnight.
Just to give us a bit of context, how much data are we actually talking about?
So there'll be hundreds of karting championships with multiple races each year, so maybe up to 10 races per year, hundreds of karting championships. So this is just karting. And then per race there might be, so per event there could be 90 drivers with 30 data points per driver, and that's always growing, so huge really. Yeah.
Yeah, and dating back
As well to 2021, and we decided to go back to 2021 because eventually we want to look at these driver histories. We obviously around 2020 have a little bit of a anomaly there, so we're going to go back to 2021 and then see what happens. Yeah.
Right. So what I really love about what you're saying is constantly we. So you have co-created this huge data lake, and then you say we've decided to commercialise it. It's like a really, really tight partnership. Can you talk us through your partnership and how that works?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the first thing is it doesn't really feel like 2 organisations. So the way in which we operate, so More Than Equal, so I would be the product owner on behalf of More Than Equal, and then Avenga have our business development and sales person is in Avenga. All of the engineer technical expertise, it sits in there, but we very much operate like a a startup, so we work agile, we work in sprints. Very quickly because of that way of working, because we have touch points maybe 5-6 times a week because of backlog refinement, etc. It's not a separate product. It's not two separate teams, and actually, for a product of this complexity, I don't think it really could be. I don't think you could give an organisation this brief without bringing alongside the motorsport and sport expertise and constantly bouncing those ideas. It kind of helps as well. I mean, I've had a background in startups as well, so it kind of helps that there's that experience of working in that way and saying, actually, we're not just going to get this tech company in and just think of it as a side project. We actually product own it. So we're a key part of that process.
And I think also we have a true virtual team. So we have the tech team mainly in Ukraine. The AI guy who's mainly working with us is a Cuban guy living in Poland. Myself, I'm sitting in Sweden, you're in the UK. So there's and we have our architect in Spain. So this has been a true virtual team, and it is a we. And I think the reason for that and the way to get away from the siloed, the customer saying we are delivering, is to be in the conversation from a very early stage. So since we were in the conversation, I was facilitating the workshop where we were like, okay, so where do we go? What ideas do we have? Okay, so we have 15 ideas here. Which one do we go for? So if we're in from that moment, we are co-creating the product all along, and the developers are coming up with fantastic ideas sometimes, like we should do this, and we're like, yeah, that's a really, really good idea. So I think the way to get away from the client and the partner relationship and more be like we is to be in very, very early. And then you need to have people in your organization, in your IT organization, that can handle those types of conversations, that are comfortable with the client saying, we know there's something in this area, but we really don't know exactly what. Which is sometimes not the way an engineering type of architect would like to. They are much happier if they can have a ready-made spec. But I think if you have those people and if you start the conversation that early, I think it's much easier to become a team.
And you clearly are a very close team. So we've had a lot of chat about AI. Could you talk us through how exactly are you using AI? How much of it is AI related, and how are you removing bias from your AI?
Yeah, for us it sounds very unglamorous, but it's absolutely super useful. So when we first started, the way that probably a lot of people would tackle getting the data from the PDF books was, you've got web scrapers, doing it, and it cost me about 17 grand to set up a web scraper, right? So you couldn't scale that. So it's like a synchronicity, we started on this project just as AI was kind of moving. So we use AI agents to convert the PDFs into CSV format, so a manageable format. And then we have, that's constantly iterated. So as we add a new championships, the prompts are evolved and so on. And we're just moving into an interesting phase now where we're looking at an AI code blend, aren't we, to always for us, it's like data acquisition, data integrity, these are key. So we're always evolving and iterating. You've really got to manage your stakeholders in that. This is a journey. So we're 80% accurate now, but the aim is 100%. And this release is about this next thing. So that's how we use the agents.
Yeah, and I think also with AI, we're developing these ideas about. So you can imagine if we're making a PDF into CSV and we have 32 data points per driver in that PDF. I mean, the manual work also of checking if it's correct is extremely tedious and very boring, of course. So now we're looking into, can AI validate AI? Could AI be the ones looking at the results coming from the first AI saying, yeah, this looks good, or this looks like it's correct, or whatever. So we're looking into all of these different ways of using AI. And the way you asked about biases, I think the way AI is helping us here is that I mean, with Future Lab, we're hoping to remove biases from motorsports, right? So we're hoping to give an open field for drivers who would not be noticed otherwise. So this is a very clear, like, who is number one on the ranking list? I can tell you all from maybe driver 1 to driver 15, they're already engaged with the big Formula One teams. So if you are scouting for new talent, which having conversations with these teams, I know that they're constantly doing it. You have to go a little bit down in the list and start to find the emerging talent. And in there are people popping up that you would traditionally not see. So we're hoping with AI to remove biases rather than creating them.
Fabulous. Right, I don't want to hog you all to myself, although I could. Is there any questions from the audience for either of our ladies?
I hate to ask a stupidly typical procurement question here, but it's really good to see you kind of working together for like a unified goal, essentially, as in you've got the same problem in different areas and building something together to do it. How does that kind of contract commercial relationship between the two of you look? Because my head would naturally go to, well, you could go one way with it and you could go the other. You could take it elsewhere, you could take it elsewhere. So how does that dynamic reflected in the kind of legal side?
Thank you very much. That's a great question. And it's one I asked you at lunchtime, so you've got an answer to this.
Yeah, so I would say very traditional, that the contracts look very traditional. There is nothing special in it that would go, so it's more in the how you deliver on the contract, I would say, rather than the contract itself.
Yeah, but in terms of ownership, so More Than Equal is the owner. We own all the IP. Of course. We pay Avenga for the services, so that's how it works. And then as many tech contracts work, there'll be things that you own in terms of if you've used Avenga products within the development. But it's a very traditional, we own it, we pay them to help develop it, but we've created a working relationship that almost doesn't feel like that, I think. That's probably fair to say.
Yeah.
Okay, Usman.
Thanks, Kerry. This is just more for my own interest and maybe others, but what's the most random data point that you use when it comes to trying to emerge future talent?
Well, actually, there are some of the basic things that we look at that have never been looked at. So every event has weather. So we would understand, for example, now whether this driver is good on the dry track or wet track. So you might have somebody who's absolutely smashing out the park, but they've never driven on a wet track. Like that's kind of never going to work. We're also now developing technical profiles of drivers. So we understand the what. So what is the driver doing and how well are they doing it? But now the technical profile is what is their makeup. So we use those data points to determine, well, is this a particularly resilient driver? Are they adaptable? Are they consistent? So on and so forth. And then once we have that understanding, we can begin to understand what's the stronger predictor of talent early for a driver later in their career. I have a hunch, for example, consistency may not matter that much in a young driver. That will come over time, but can they do the raw things like bounce back from failures, that kind of thing? So that's where we're evolving now. And to be honest, I don't think anybody's even thought about that because we're still very in this sport fixated on, well, what's the single fastest lap time? And that's it. Whereas actually there are different types of drivers. If you want to go into a Formula E, you'll be a very different driver to what you are in Formula One. It's a completely different racecraft.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that having conversations with the F1 teams, it's becoming very clear to me that they're looking at different things. They want different types. So one was asking whether we could go into some other Formula 4 championships. Another one was asking, can you go lower down into lower categories on the karting? So they are looking in different. So I think we will also need and should be very adaptable to what is it that they are actually looking at. But also I would say that on the closer conversations that we've had, they are kind of also asking for help in this area. So I think we have a great opportunity with Future Lab of also starting to educate how you can use data for talent identification. Because obviously, I mean, if you're saying to someone, okay, you're doing it the traditional way, that's good, but how can you do it different? When you say the word different, it's like, yeah, but then show me what is different. And I think we have a great opportunity to do that, to actually show people how to do it different.
That kind of answers my last question, and this is going to you, Fran, is what next? Where are you going with this? What are we expecting? And can you actually diversify this into different sports? What's the plan?
Yeah. Perfect timing, because I might melt on this stage if I stay any longer. So what's next? I think the commercial piece is really key for us. So give you some context. I think lowballing it, I think it probably costs about 10 to 15 million to get a driver from karting to Formula One. So more than equal, we are making some high risk investments. And that's a lot of money to find if you're working with multiple drivers. So commercialising, because we're a not-for-profit, all we want to do with that money is feed it back into the drivers. So that will be a key thing. Can it go into other sports? Yes, I think it probably can. So we were just talking about V-sailing earlier as an example, Sail GP, that kind of thing. I think there are options to take some of what we have already done and rinse repeat with that model.
Yeah, there just has to be a market fit for it, because some sports have already done it, and B, there needs to be this type of sports where you're really interested in young talent in a very commercialized way. So I think, but there are, I'm certain there are more markets out there that we could go into with Future Lab in the future. Let's see.
That is excellent. It was a fantastic case study.
How long?
How long till she's there? Originally, when it started, it was a 10-year mission. So the girls that we work with at the moment range between, the youngest is just 14. So yeah, it's a long-term mission, just like the product is a long-term. Yeah.
Okay, thank you both so much. It's a fantastic case study, and we're all going to be watching and looking for that first Formula One woman champion. Thank you very much.